We're lights out and racing then here in MotoGP in Hungary for the first time in 33 years. Marquez is going to try and be aggressive on the inside of Marquez into that first corner. They all concertina up. Are they all safely through? There's a bit of bumping and barging, but they have all made it safely through. And Bez and Marc
ran into it.
Big contact there. Bezzecchi had snatched the lead on that tight run through turn 2. There's contact there between 72 and 93.
Marquez back to third place then, so we do have a VR46 Ducati in second place, but it is Frankie Morbidelli, then it is Marquez in third, Morbidelli fourth, but look at the KTM's attacking, Acosta and Bastianini going either side of Marini.
Yeah, that's aggressive early on by Bastianini. So Marquez, he made the dream start, didn't he, in the sprint? Yes, they avoided all the early trouble going through turn 1. He made a really good start though, again here today, but he's back in third place after the early rub with Bez.
Pecco Bagnaia is up to 7th place already, although that might become 8th now. Here comes Aldeguer up the inside, but Marco Bezzecchi, if you want an opportunity to win this Hungarian Grand Prix, get your head down and go for it, because he's got an advantage and he's got Frankie Morbidelli between himself and Marquez.
Straight away as well, Jorge Martin's been dynamite off the line. He's already up inside the top 10 as well. A 9th place halfway around this opening lap. Bastianini's gone down, and that was awful. You could see him look to his left-hand side. He knew he was going to come careering back onto the racing line. He had his heart in his mouth. And of course, the bad news for Enea is he's not going to serve the double on that penalty unless he can remount, which will then carry on over into the Catalan Grand Prix.
Yeah, he's got to get up and running and just serve those penalties, so he's out of the way. Martin's also passed Bagnaia. Of course, they were dodging Bastianini's KTM, but Bezzecchi's lead is 4/10 of a second over Morbidelli. Marquez third, and what a start for Pedro Acosta, just what he would have hoped for on this first lap. Acosta already up into P4.
Oh, that was a scary moment, wasn't it, for Bastianini and all those riders who somehow threaded their bike through the eye of a needle.
Somebody's up to Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez is on the floor. He's gone down at turn 1. Of course, he's also got a point. Served a penalty off the grid. And of course, having made no real progress on that first lap, he was still back in 13th. Alex Marquez down at turn 1.
Into the first corner he goes, didn't come out the other side of it. Marquez, MotoGP world champion in Misano. Anybody that's going to be potentially what we could be facing in just a couple of rounds time. Let's go down to Jack for a Bez update.
Yeah, importantly, the team told him plus 0.5 Morbidelli, so Bezzecchi knows that Marquez isn't behind him, and he's got a massive opportunity here if he can get into his rhythm early.
Morbidelli was aggressive on the inside, wasn't he? That's pushed Acosta wide, and then already Bezzecchi got his way through, hadn't he, on Marc, and then Marc just ploughed into the back of the factory of Aprilia. And we're on board now with Morbidelli.
Oh, no gap there, Marc.
The only rider right now in the top 4 that is not on the soft rear is World Championship leader Marc Marquez, and that surely will come to Marc and be a big advantage for him in the second half, latter stages of this Grand Prix.
Yellow flags have come out again. I think it's Raul Fernandez's name that has just disappeared down the left-hand side of the screen. It's not been a great weekend in truth for the Trackhouse team. Joan Mir is down with Raul Fernandez, so both riders down, and let's hope that Joan Mir hasn't been involved in another incident that wasn't his fault. Quartararo through for the long lap penalty. Bagnaia amongst others go through, and Quartararo rejoins up behind Jack Miller on the Pramac Yamaha, so that is 13th place.
Let's have a look at this one further back in the field.
They're just separate accidents, don't they? They both go down together at the same corner, so certainly no one's fault but each other's.
Those guys that are pushing on the soft potentially may encounter some late grip issues. That's what he's going to be banking on, but first and foremost, though, he's got to find a way through on Morbidelli, and right on cue he does. Going into 8 and 9 then, and Marc Marquez then, and now he does start to think about honing in on Bezzecchi. Marc up to second.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't in the realms of panicking just yet, but a move he had to get done. He couldn't stay behind Morbidelli's Ducati for much longer if he could help it, so Marco Bezzecchi's initial breathing space amounted to around about 1.1 seconds over Marc Marquez, and Bez will now be getting the instruction on his pit board and on his dash. It's now 93 behind you.
Marquez has made such light work of getting to Bezzecchi. Acosta has got through into third place on Morbidelli, who just has not got the pace to go with the two ahead of him. Acosta then does move up into third place. Can he do anything about getting his claws into the two directly ahead of him now on circuit?
Well, the gap between them is around about 1.7 seconds, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. So that's not going to be closed down quickly by Pedro Acosta. But how much longer is Marc Marquez going to be prepared to stare at the rear of Aprilia? Spent a lot of time looking at it last weekend, didn't he, in Austria? It took him until around about 2/3 distance before he finally shook off the challenge of Marco Bezzecchi. How long can Bez put up a resistance this time?
He has led laps in the last 3 Grand Prix weekends as Marco Bezzecchi, but he's looking really, really vulnerable right now on that factory Aprilia. So vulnerable that Marquez hits the front then for the first time. That wasn't going to work out. Marc just charging in that little bit too hot on the brakes into turn 1. Bezzecchi would have heard that move coming and thought, well, if you're braking that late, mate, when I'm braking as late as I am, you're only going to go one way, and that's to the curve on the outside. So it's Bez briefly then back at the front, but he knows it's coming. Marc's just said, you've had your fun, now it's time for me to take control of this Grand Prix. Now we go into turn 5. Marquez levels Bez once again in that heavy braking zone. Bezzecchi comes straight back on through. Listen to the crowd, they're on their feet. This is what Hungary fans have missed for so many years. That's twice then now on this lap 7. Lap 8 that we have seen Bez and Marquez exchange overtakes for the lead.
Every apex, if you stay on the racing line and you're able to put clean laps together, it's so difficult to pass. But Marc Marquez got another very good run out of turn 17. Can he get up alongside and brake late enough this time to get through on Marco Bezzecchi? Bezzecchi tries to cut back underneath him, but Marc Marquez now has the inside line for turn 2.
Yeah, he's blocked the line going initially through 1 and then through 2. So we are now lap 11 of 26, and it's Marc Marquez that has hit the front. You can just see there Acosta. He really is starting to hunt down Bezzecchi now in particular. Out of absolutely nowhere, it has taken less than 2 laps for Marc Marquez to establish a lead over Bezzecchi of a second. Like we said a few laps ago, the mindset's obviously, you've had your fun, mate, at the front of this Grand Prix. Now I'll take over, thank you very much, and take it from here.
This is Pecco Bagnaia, who is running in 8th place. He's a second and a half adrift of Luca Marini, and part of the reason he is so far behind is that, and of course he's having a good look behind to make sure he drops enough time so that he doesn't have to come through the long lap penalty loop, and that is why Binder and Pol Espargaro are right behind him. I think Aldeguer's gone down. He has. That's the second Gresini Ducati to go down. Aldeguer did come across the line running in 5th place, and he got to turn 1, but no further.
Bezzecchi goes charging in hot then into that final chicane. That's going to cost him a lot of momentum now going through turn 17. Power on the factory Aprilia down the start-finish straight, but he's up against the fastest Grand Prix bike in history, Pedro Acosta's KTM. Acosta has the inside line now in the braking zone for the first corner. You feel like that was really Bezzecchi paying for the mistake he made going into turn 15 and 16. Oh, it's Johan Zarco. He'll be battered and bruised after getting slammed into by Bastianini in the sprint yesterday. That's a big get-off for Zarco's. Somewhat slowly and gingerly and a bit awkwardly stumbles away from the scene of the crime. This is him trying to hold off Viagura for 12th place, and that is big. That's a real big crash for Zarco. Marquez back into the mid-138. It was almost like that lap 20 was, well, this is how fast I can go if I need to. Martin on the inside of Morbidelli. This is getting better and better and better, isn't it, for the reigning world champion, showing just why he's got that #1 plate on that factory Aprilia.
Marc Marquez might just be 2 more Grand Prix weekends away from clinching what has felt like at times an impossibility of a 7th MotoGP World Championship. A 7th consecutive double takes him another step closer.
He's coming now into the final sector, nearly 4 seconds clear of Pedro Acosta. It has looked so smooth. It has looked so easy as he comes through the final corner now. It has been a breeze in Balaton for World Championship leader Marc Marquez, as he does win for a 7th successive Grand Prix, extends his winning run, his best in 11 years since 2014.
Marc Marquez making it 7 consecutive doubles as he claims victory by more than 4 seconds ahead of Pedro Acosta, with Marco Bezzecchi completing the podium. Jorge Martin secured his best result for Aprilia with P4, just ahead of Luca Marini in 5th.